All right, gentlemen, today is likely to be our last day of this training. We are going to move on to chapter 12, which is the second last chapter, basically, but because we have already completed the stakeholder chapter, and this is the last chapter, so we will start off with the procurement. But before we can proceed ahead, we left something from the risks topic, and I would like to first discuss that. So let me put that thing on. And right. So I was talking yesterday about the risk responses. This is the last process in planning of the risk in the planning process group, where we have already created a risk management plan. We have identified all the risks. We have done the qualitative analysis of these risks, in which we used 80-20 rule, and ultimately the sorted risks which we have screened out, they have been quantitatively analyzed, and not only that, but we also ensured that the overall risk of the project is also determined. And you see, all this exercise will have to be repeated continuously throughout the life of the project, because as and when we will identify any new risk, the whole thing will be repeated, will iterate, and this is part of the progressive elaboration. Anyways, the last step is to develop the risk responses for those selected risks which you feel that they must be taken into account. So to develop this risk response, naturally we know that we have two types of risk, the positive risk and the negative risk, positive being opportunities and negative being threats. And if you remember the basic definition, we said that for positive risks or opportunities, we will try to enhance the chances. We will try to increase the probability, and we will try to take full advantage of the opportunities. As far as the negative risks are concerned, the threats, we will try to reduce the probability of those, and thus the amount at stake will also be affected. So we have seen the formula. We have seen that the probability and the amount at stake gets multiplied to give you the impact of each risk. So that impact we have calculated, and now we understand where we stand as far as every risk is concerned. Out of those risks, now we are going to create some strategies. There will be separate strategies for dealing with negative risks or threats, and there will be separate strategies to deal with positive risks or opportunities. On top of that, we will have some contingent response strategies, like we have done for those small risks which we have put aside, and we have not analyzed them or quantitatively analyzed them in detail, and we have dedicated amount to take care of those risks. So for that, we will have the contingent response strategy, and ultimately the expert judgment. So we will use the risk register and risk management plan and apply these tools, and ultimately we will devise the response strategy for each and every of those risks selected, and with that information we are going to update the register. Now there is one more thing here: risk related contract decisions. What are these and why are these important? We will discuss it more in the procurement chapter, where we will talk about some of the risks which are to be transferred. If you decide to transfer a risk to someone, there could be certain number of reasons for that. When you decide to transfer a risk to someone, that could be an outsourcing. So you may have to get into a contract with that party to do that job for you and take the risk for that job. So this is risk related contract decisions we have to deal with, and naturally the project management plan and project documents will be updated accordingly. So as usual, we understand the risk registers will be updated into the project management plan, and naturally the project documents will also be updated. What can we do when there is a risk? What are the responses? Normally, we consider risk as a negative thing. So generally, which comes to mind are those steps which we can take to avoid or get away from that risk. The very first thing is probably the hazard prevention. That is, somehow we can completely eradicate the risk altogether. But you see, you cannot completely eradicate a risk. This is much bigger than the risk itself because it might be a hazard in itself. So you cannot compare a risk with a hazard. Hazard is something too big for a project. Risk are those risks which are affecting the project directly. Like you see, I'll give you a very simple example. If there is you know a project, there was a project in Kashmir and it was to construct a school or something like that. It had a limited budget and it was going fine, handling its own risks and everything. But suddenly there was an earthquake and everything was shattered, everything was broken. Could that kind of risk be catered within the project of constructing a school? Probably it is not possible. This is the damage caused by the earthquake was much beyond the capacity of the project or even the budget of the project. So you cannot prevent the hazards. But anyways, this could be our dream that we don't want hazards to happen to us. And if at all you could do something about it, maybe you would have done it. But the maximum you could do within a project, within the capacity of a project, is number one, to avoid the risk. If you feel that on the specific path you are walking, it is a risky path, you might like to change your path and get away from the path of the risk. This is avoiding the risk, and naturally, if you are avoiding the risk, there might be certain cost associated with it. Then, if you think that you can't avoid the risk or you want to explore other opportunities, the next possibility could be that you want this risk to be transferred to someone. You don't want to feel the blunt of the risk. You want someone else to ward it off and take care of it at your expense. I mean, at your expense, which definitely means that you are going to pay for it. So you are outsourcing this risk to someone else, like insurance company. Insurance company takes on the responsibility of whatever insurance you are taking on, and ultimately, if something bad happens, they will take care of it. So they are insulating you from the risk and carrying the blunt of the risk by themselves. So this is called risk transfer when you transfer the risk to someone else. Then the third thing normally is that if you think that you can't avoid or transfer the risk, then there is no other way than to bear the risk. And what you can do before the risk hits you is probably either you can uh, try to reduce the likelihood of that risk, the probability or possibility of that risk. You want it to slow down, or it's if it the possibility of it happening may not be that much, so you will spend money in reducing the speed of the risk or the probability of the risk. Or the second thing could be that you could protect yourself from the damage. Maybe you get into a kind of a shield and the risk is coming towards you, but you are shielding yourself with something. You are protecting yourself from the damage as if as much damage is not done. Both of these things are part of the mitigation. You are trying to mitigate the risk. If you are mitigating the risk, you are either reducing the probability or the amount at stake. And if you can do both, then this is wonderful because both of these effects are multiplied And if both are reduced, then it is drastically, far removed from the effect it could have created. And if you can't even do that, you can't mitigate the risk, the very last option left to you is to face it. And to face it, it is called acceptance. You accept the risk because you could not have done anything else. Therefore, you are accepting it. You remember, I did talk about the risk tolerance and risk appetite and all that. So that was the limit which you were anyways accepting. You have had already decided that these kind of risks, this much amount, the risk of this much amount, I will not treat them anyways, and I'll anyways accept it. I'm not talking about those risks. Those risks are not treated as risks at all. You have already decided to take them on. But now I'm talking about the big risks which have finally been sorted out, and you tried your level best by, you know, you tried to avoid the risk, you tried to transfer the risk, you tried to mitigate the risk. But if nothing could be done, then again we are left with no other option but to accept it. So we will accept the risk. Now let us compare it with the person who is risk averse and a person who is a risk taker. A risk averse is a person who closes his eyes towards the risks while the risk is apparently visible. He doesn't look towards the risk, he doesn't want to talk about it, he doesn't want to think about it, and he says, well, there is no risk, I can't see any risk. So he is averse to the risk, and ultimately, when the risk hits him, he is caught completely unawares because he didn't want to think about it. So the damage is maximum. On the other hand, you might have known people who claim to be very brave and they say we are risk takers. And these risk takers go bang themselves into the wall even when that wall was not in their way. You understand my point? So, bravery is also no solution to the risk management. This is no response to the risk that you go and bang your head with the wall while you could have bypassed it or you could have done something else. You could have climbed it. But no, they will physically go and bang their head right into the wall. So, both of these people, one claiming to be very brave and the other claiming to be completely ignorant about it, both are disastrous in project situations. Risk cannot be, you cannot be averse to the risk. That means you are a coward and you don't want to face the risk. On the other hand, if you are foolishly brave, that is also not the solution because both ways you are causing maximum damage to yourself. I am not asking you not to be brave. I am asking you to take calculated risk only. And these means which I have just described to you, risk avoidance, risk transference, risk mitigation, and risk acceptance, these are the four strategies for negative risks, which you will find that you will actually reduce the impact of the risk, or at least even if you are accepting the risk, you know the volume and impact of the risk, and therefore you would do something about it. You would know that I have thoroughly analyzed the situation, I can't do nothing about it, and therefore you are prepared. You are not like the person who is averse to the risk, that he did not even calculate how much is the damage beforehand, and now he is, completely stuck. I am also going to be completely stuck if I accept the risk ultimately, but then I would be aware. So this is an intelligent decision I have taken to accept the risk. Similarly, the brave person who is trying to, the risk taker is also not good because he is not taking calculated risk. He is just banging into it. So please advise your people around you that both these approaches are incorrect and they should not be taken. And lastly, naturally, we have the contingencies for those risks which are unknown, which we could not have conceived or which, which are very small enough, and you are just put aside money for them. Okay, whatever measures you take to reduce the risk, naturally the risk exposure will be reduced from whatever it was to whatever it is now. For example, if taking the same example of a room catching a fire, and the damage is 10 lakh rupees, and the probability is say 10%. So what is the risk exposure? That is 1 lakh rupees, right? What if I ask you to take mitigation steps and somehow reduce the risk? How can you do that? How can you reduce the risk?
By putting in fire alarm system or something like this.
Fire alarm system, right? Fire alarm system is just a warning system. It will trigger something, but how will it,
ट्रिगर
save
करके
you from the
मारने का
loss?
सर, मतलब ट्रिगर करके वो फायर स्प्रे वो कर देता है ना, पानी स्प्रे कर देता है या कुछ स्प्रे करवा देता
Okay,
है।
okay. So with fire alarm system, you are having another system with it, which is actually extinguishing the fire, right? So for a room which could cause you a loss of 10 lakh rupees, you are trying to put in a fire alarm system. Can you kindly tell me how much will it cost?
डिपेंड्स ऑन द प्लेस एंड स्पेस, डिपेंड करता है, अगर छोटा सा हो तो बहुत सस्ता भी होता है।
You know the worth of the room. The worth of the room is 10 lakh. Total loss is 10 lakh. So
So you may like install it like within 50,000 rupees. मैंने
okay, what kind of a fire alarm system can be bought in 50,000 rupees?
स्प्रे वाला तो नहीं होगा, जो दूसरा वाला होता है वो होगा, लेकिन जो होता है सर खाली अलार्म भी होता है ना, उसके साथ भी यू हैव एक्सटिंग्विशर्स अवेलेबल इन द रूम। द मोमेंट
Right.
इट द फायर गोज अप,
Okay.
you immediately spray.
Right. Okay. That means the automatic system is not good for you because that is going to be too expensive. And with for this risk, you won't be able to afford it. That would increase your cost so high that it is even more than the exposure. The risk exposure is just 1 lakh rupees. You can't spend more than 1 lakh rupees, right? So
Yes.
within 1 lakh rupees, if you can do it, so automatic system could not work here. The second you said the alarm system with fire extinguishers. So you are proposing two things. The alarm system, naturally the sensor and alarm will be there. That will cost something, and naturally the fire extinguishers will also cost something. And naturally the people who will extinguish the fire, they have to be provided training. Tell me all these things, how much will they cost? Will it be under 100,000?
Could be.
Could be, but you are treading the dangerous grounds. This is not really possible. How can okay, fire extinguisher, how much? How much is the cost of a fire extinguisher? How many do you want?
Kind of room that we are talking, we can just go with one, maybe maximum two,
Maximum two, and how much does it cost?
maybe 10 to 15,000 rupees.
Okay, 15,000 rupees and 15,000 rupees, 30,000 rupees. They are gone. Now, a fire alarm, sensor and alarm, how much will that cost?
Again, maybe like 15, 20,000 rupees.
Okay, 20,000 gone. It is now 50,000 expended. How much will you spend on the training of the people and maintenance of these systems?
It's not very much maintained सर, वो तो खैर एक दफा लग जाता है, लेकिन बंदों की ट्रेनिंग ये होती है कि you regularly train your staff, normal staff,
Exactly,
to
exactly.
operate the system the
Right,
moment it.
right. Actually, both things you have to do. You have to train your staff, and naturally, till the time the room catches fire, you will keep training the people. People will keep changing. So it has to be maybe a monthly or weekly drill or something like that. And if that
जैसे यहाँ पे फायर ड्रिल
that will
होती है,
cost,
फायर
that will
ड्रिल
cost you something. If nothing else, it is costing you the time of your employees, right? So
एग्जैक्टली
if 30 minutes in a month they are spending on that, and the salary of 30 minutes is actually the cost of that. Moreover,
एग्जैक्टली
the maintenance guy will have to come and visit and see it maybe once a month or something like that, and see if everything is in working order. So anyways, the cost comes out to be lesser than 100,000. So therefore, I say okay, that is fine. So with how much have you spent? Say 60,000 rupees you have spent. So with 60,000 rupees, uh, how much? What have you impacted? What have you impacted? This is a risk reduction cost. The money you have spent here is a risk reduction cost. But what is the impact of that? How much loss have you saved? Number one, were you able to, uh, somehow reduce the probability of fire with these measures? Could you reduce the probability of this room catching fire?
नो
No, sir.
Not at all. Not at all. So you only did one thing, and that is you reduced the amount at stake. If it was 10 lakh, with these measures, the loss will be there. Naturally, something will burn, but you have reduced it. So how much will be burnt?
20% में भी आप 2 लाख रख लें उसके लिए, और 8 लाख का रह गया बाकी का,
2 lakh?
8 लाख बच गया, 2 लाख का जल जाएगा.
नहीं, 8 lakh नहीं बच गया. You only had 1 lakh rupees. Then it becomes
वही है कि
uneconomical.
10
Okay, even if you say 20% of the room is burned, then 2 lakh rupees multiplied by the probability was how much? Probability was 10%. So 2 lakh into
10% हुई
10%,
ना.
20,000. 20,000. So
Okay.
previous risk exposure was 100,000. New risk exposure is 20,000. So 100,000 minus 20,000 is how much? 80,000. 80,000 divided by the money you have spent on it, 60,000. 80,000 divided by 60,000 will give you risk reduction leverage. Risk reduction leverage. Now, if the answer is more than 1, that means that it is okay. This is giving me some benefit. If the answer is equal to 1, that means that it is not, it is giving me exactly the same benefit which it would have been if it caught fire directly. If I would not have taken any measures, still I was ready to take on $100,000. So that is no benefit at all. And anything, if the answer is more than less than 1, then this is dangerous. This risk is not treatable. Do you get my point?
Yes.
80,000 is the total reduction divided by the cost you have spent on these steps, and ultimately you have got 1 point something. That means this is feasible. This step can be taken, but we would have preferred if this figure was as high as possible. I mean, if it was not 1.2, but it was 2.5 or 5 or 10, so I would be much happier, because at a much lower cost, I would be able to ward off a bigger risk. So even if you want to try any other method to reduce the risk, you probably should do that. Okay, just for exercise purposes, let us see how can you reduce the probability of this room catching fire.
Taking preventive measures.
And what could they be?
Like you need to insulate the wiring of the room
Okay, fine.
if you have done it before.
For a
If there
room,
is anything that catches fire.
for a room which has an amount at stake of 10 lakh rupees, how much wiring has to be insulated and how much will it cost?
Well, not exactly the wiring, the switchboard you can use it. The switchboard you can use that should not catch fire, like you replace it from the plastic
Okay,
with the ceramics
okay.
so that they don't get hot enough or burn themselves.
Hmm.
Or take preventive measures that the furniture should be the furniture in it. It should not be the way. It should not have the ability to catch the fire. Like it should
Understood.
not be varnished too much.
Again, take the price for that. You know, these things are very nice when we talk about them, but this is let's do it. You have to change all the furniture. What is the cost of changing all the furniture to, less combustible material? It will again be more than
That
100,000 rupees.
they're more than the cost. That will certainly increase the
Exactly.
cost.
That is my
But
point.
the
So,
best thing is take the things that. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That is exactly why I'm highlighting this to you, because it is very easy to say that we will do this and that, but actually when you start calculating it, you find out that this is not feasible at all. So you cannot spend more than what is required to be spent on that area, except for if there is some other important thing, maybe human life or some other thing involved in that, then I can take that kind of risk. You see, if there is danger to human life, you may like to spend more and much more. And
Hmm.
I'll give you an example in which even human life does not matter, something else matters a lot. Can you come up with such an example? We are ready to sacrifice the human life. Why and when?
War.
For war? Okay. What if it was a nuclear facility and if that thing explodes, that is going to damage the whole country? So that maybe the 20 or 30 scientists working in that room, I'm ready to sacrifice them to save my country or, a nuclear hazard. So what I'll do is I will install an expensive system which will suck all the oxygen instantly as soon as the sensor smells something. All the people will die instantaneously. What do you say? Are you ready for that?
It is too much, sir.
Hmm.
Sir, after all, those two scientists are also human beings, so we cannot
Not
compromise
you.
on
There are
these
30
things.
scientists in that room.
Yes,
So
sir.
what is
So those are also
what is more important to you? 30 scientists or the whole
Like
country?
300,
country.
300 million, sir.
Yeah.
300 million instead of 30.
Exactly. So sometimes you have to take that kind of decision also. So this all depends upon the sensitivity of the matter you are involved in. I'm not saying everything is governed by the economics or the money. As we have already, studied the cost benefit analysis, you must do your cost benefit analysis. You see if there is a strategic value to that room, if there is any technical reason why you should do something, or if there is nothing else, there is no strategic problem, there is no technical problem, then the decision is financial in nature. Then you will go for money. But when it is a strategic decision, you have to save that room at any cost, then probably money does not matter. Life does not matter. So this is just a preamble to that. Let's see what else we have. I've already talked about this. Yeah, the negative strategies, as I've just described to you: avoid the risk, transfer the risk, mitigate the risk, or if nothing can be done, accept it. The positive strategies are for opportunities, and naturally these strategies are in reverse order. Like you see, rather than avoiding the risk, I would like to share the risk. Rather than avoiding the risk, I would rather like to share this opportunity. I'll give you an example. If you are constructing a house and you need 5 windows of equal size, when you go to the market, the person says that each window will cost you 20,000 rupees. But if you buy 10 windows, I will give it to you in 150,000 rupees. What do you think? What should you do? Should you buy the 5 windows in 100,000 or 10 windows in 150,000?
So it depends if we can share, as you said, share it, whether we can share it or not.
That's exactly the point. If I can share it with someone, if I can convince the other person who is constructing the house beside mine and ask him if he has already bought the windows, and if not, then I can share it with him. That way, to both of us, it will cost us just 75,000 rupees. So I'll be saving 25,000 rupees altogether. And not only that, I have shared it with someone. So rather than avoiding, I share, right? Okay. What about transferring?
Okay.
What about transferring? Sorry. It is not avoid. This is the reverse of transfer. The share is reverse of transfer. Avoid, the reverse of avoid is enhance. Reverse of avoid is enhance. If you in a threat, you want to get rid of it, you want to avoid it, you want to get out of its way. And in positive strategies, for opportunities, you get into the way of opportunity. So you enhance the chances, you enhance that opportunity. As far as mitigation is concerned, in negative risks, we were trying to reduce the probability and the impact of the negative risk. Here we want to exploit that opportunity. Here we want to increase the probability and the benefit coming out of it for us. Even in positive strategies, if we cannot do any one of these three things, we have no other way but to accept. So accept is common in both negative and positive strategies. Ultimately, I have to accept. But this acceptance, whether it is in negative or positive strategies, this is an educated acceptance. This is an aware acceptance. This is not blind acceptance. So the person who was averse to the risk, he was actually going for a blind acceptance. And the person who was trying to be very brave, he is also not taking calculated risk. He is also blindly banging into the wall. So we are not promoting those two people. We are talking about the analysis, proper measures, and these are the proper strategies for negative and positive risks. Okay, one thing more about the transferring of the risk. I said risk could be transferred in form of insurance, or it could be outsourced to someone. Why do normally we outsource something to someone? There are generally three reasons. Number one, we don't have the capability to do that job, so we want it to be done by someone else. We don't have capacity to do that job. Again, we want it to outsource. And third is, it is too risky. We have capability and capacity, but this job is too risky and the damage it can cause is much higher than we can afford. So therefore, I ask the experts to come and take on this job. I will outsource it to them and they are ready to take the risk at a premium, just like insurance. So when I'm trying to transfer a risk, I am the buyer and the person who is, you know, doing it for me is the seller. So I want my risk to be reduced to the minimum and his risk to be increased to the maximum, right? So what kinds of contracts could be there? We will study them in procurement, but anyways, we are just discussing them. The best type of contract could be a firm fixed priced contract. A firm fixed price contract is the one in which you ask the vendor to quote for this job a firm fixed price, and once that is accepted, he cannot change, and you also cannot change. So if he says, the scope should be very clear, he should know what the job is to be done, he will quote it for that, and once that has been accepted, then the risk is his. If the prices go up, if anything bad happens, he has to carry the risk. He will have to do it in that amount. We will not pay him any further. In this case, what I have done is I have taken the blunt of the premium, but the risk is low at my end and high at the seller end. Now, there could be many variations to that. There could be another type of contract in which I am again going for a fixed price but with incentive. And in this, what I do is I ask him to do the job faster or better, and I will give him some incentive for doing good or better, fast or better, or whatever. So if he does good, then I will pay him some additional amount. So that is an incentive for him, and I am ready to take that much risk by myself. So a little a little bit of risk I am taking to myself, but the majority of the risk is still with the seller. But this is not exactly the firm fixed price, because in firm fixed price I was not ready to accept any more payments. Third type is cost plus incentive fee. Cost plus incentive fee is like, you're constructing a house and you hire a contractor, and this contractor is going to, you know, do it for you, but you have to pay for everything. And then he will ask for his payment also. So whatever the materials is bought and everything, you will have to pay. This is called cost of the material and everything. This is to be paid by you instantly, and the person facilitating that would be paid something extra. Now that something extra is called cost plus. So what could that be? That could be of incentive fee. If he does a good job, then you give him more incentive or less incentive. You see, in this case, in cost plus, we have got all the risk of the material and everything. But as far as the work is concerned, the seller is responsible for that. So this is comparatively more risk on my side as far as the materials are concerned. The work, a whole of the risk is on the seller. Even lighter side is cost plus fixed fee. I said, I'll pay you this cost, whatever the cost is, and your fee will be fixed. Now what happens? If his fee is fixed, if he knows that he will just get this much money out of it, he has no interest in doing a better job. In incentive fee, he was interested to do good job and get more money. So in that, when he is not getting more money and he is getting a fixed amount, then he is not ready to take any risk from that side as well. Last but not the least, which is the worst for the buyer, because buyer risk is the highest and the seller risk is the lowest, and that is cost plus percentage of cost. Whatever is the cost of the material, 10% of that amount will be paid to the contractor. This looks very fine, and normally contractor wants this kind of contract, but this kind of contract is very bad for you. This is full of risk, because contractor does not have any interest in reducing the cost. He will try to increase the cost of everything as if his 10% can be increased, and therefore he has the lowest risk and you have the highest risk. So it was just talking about the transferring of the risk from the point of view of the procurement or contract documents. So these are the various kinds of contracts which we'll study more in more detail later. Then a little about the risk, insurable risk, as you have already, I have given you the definition. This is called pure risk. Pure risk is the risk which always results in a loss. That's why these insurable risks or pure risks are insured. How do you do that? First of all, if my factory gets burned, the insurance company will pay for it. It could be a direct property damage. It could be another type of insurance, which is indirect consequential loss. My property is burned, but the neighboring factory is also burned due to my fire. So the insurance company will pay for that as well. That is indirect consequential loss. Then is a legal liability. The material and product I am creating, if there are any design errors or bugs and I get sued by someone, that is protected by insurance. This is legal liability. Personal, my people, my employees, if they get hurt during doing my job in the factory, I have to insure them. And if I put it all together, all these insurances together, this is called a wrap-up insurance, in which all the above integrated into one agreement, usually provided by the owner. So owner takes on the responsibility of paying for all these things, and therefore this is a wrap-up insurance. Last is the control risk, and naturally control risk is the process of implementing the risk responses while they are being tracked. The risk identified risks are being tracked and monitored, and whenever a risk is about to occur, that is the point where you have to take requisite action. Some actions have to be taken in advance, like buying a fire extinguisher. You don't have to buy the fire extinguisher right before the fire erupts. Therefore, you have to decide when certain measures have to be taken. There are certain things you start spending money or start taking action when those risks are about to occur. For example, if there is a threat of rainfall and that will destroy your work, so you will keep monitoring the weather, and when it is imminent that it is about to rain, only then you will take certain measures to protect your work, right? So you have to decide what measures have to be taken at what time. So we need to have a project management plan, our risk register. Work performance data is coming from execution as usual to any control. So here also we get the work performance data. And you remember, from monitoring and control, the work performance information was converted into report. That report is required by control risk, as if it can deduce what is lying in the future. It will do the risk reassessment. All the risks have to be reassessed. The complete risk audits will be undertaken. Variance and trend analysis will be established. So all the analysis part, qualitative, quantitative, this will happen again. Technical performance will be measured. Reserves will be reanalyzed, and ultimately through meetings we will be able to not only convert the work performance data into work performance information, but if there is any change request or any amendment to the project management plan, project documents, or organization processes, that will be done. This is the job of the control. But control actually encompasses all the previous processes, because new risks will be identified, reassessed, and everything. So you will go through identify risk, qualitative, quantitative, and risk response. Everything you have to do. So this will be done in control continuously. So this brings us to the end of this chapter. Let's move directly on to procurement. Right, any questions so far?
It's fine, sir.
Okay, as far as the procurement is concerned, we have got 4 processes here. One in planning, one in execution, one in monitoring and control, and one in close. There is no process for initiation, because procurement is something we are outsourcing some of our jobs, and the decision is taken while we are planning. So in initiation, we don't know what will be outsourced. But once we decide in planning what to be outsourced, we consult initiation for identification of stakeholders, for identifying those prospective sellers or contractors who could be bidding for this project. Otherwise, all the work starts from planning. So when we are planning, when we are developing the project management plan, we will develop a procurement management plan. And how is it developed? Naturally, we already have the WBS prepared, scope has been established, and time and cost have also been calculated. But we have reached a conclusion about certain jobs that we will not be able to do it. And why have we reached that decision? Because of three reasons. Either we did not have the capability, or the capacity, or the risk was too high. In any of these three cases, I may decide not to do this job myself and get it outsourced to some contractor. As soon as I do that, as soon as I decide that, I will have to create a statement of work for that portion of work. And that statement of work is in a layman language, will define what needs to be done. In a layman language, it may not be a very technical document. It could be a very small one pager or a brief statement of what is to be done. This is the statement of work. People normally confuse it with scope of work. This is not the scope of work, but it does include a little hint of the scope. What is to be done? Yes, of course, in a very high level, it does include some scope, but this is not the detailed scope. This is not a complete requirement document. So you must tie it up in your mind that statement of work is just a layman statement, a brief statement of what is to be done. So the job you have selected not to do yourself due to obvious reasons, you will create a statement of work, and that statement of work will help you or guide you to develop further procurement documents for that job. Now the procurement documents could be many. It could be request for proposal, request for quotation, invitation for bid, tender notice, whatever you want to. There could be a number of procurement documents, but naturally you will have to select what is most appropriate for in your case. In some cases, you will go for request for proposal. In some cases, you will go for request for quotation. So you have to decide what kind of procurement documents are to be created. All the procurement documents, whatever you want to create, will be based on the statement of work. So first is the make or buy decision, based on which you have decided which jobs have to be outsourced. For each of those jobs, you will create a statement of work, and based on that statement of work, you will create the requisite procurement documents. And now, once you have created the procurement documents, the next thing is you will establish a selection criteria. And this is going to be part of the procurement management plan. The source selection criteria is going to be part of your procurement management plan. How the procurement will be done, when will it be advertised, what would be the time period given to the bidder to submit their proposal, when will be the pre-bid meeting, what will be observed in the proposals, what will be the procedure of will the technical and financial be analyzed separately altogether, how the marks will be given, who will be actually awarding them those points or marks, who will be ranking or scoring them, and ultimately how the contract will be signed. This all is part of the procurement management plan. So all the main thinking process is completed in planning, but none of the steps as such to execute the procurement is actually done in planning. You have prepared all the documents, the procurement document, the source selection criteria, questionnaires, ranking system, allocated the teams who will analyze it or check it, and even you can draft a contract. A draft contract could be prepared beforehand. This all is part of the plan procurement. But you see, you cannot award these contracts in the planning because those jobs need to be done during execution and they are not all to be done immediately in the start of execution. A portion of work might be required to be done after 9 months of the start of the project. How can I award the contract to someone for doing it after 9 months? So I will have to decide how much time will it take to award the contract and what is the earliest date I can advertise it in the newspaper. Maybe if it takes about 3 months to select a vendor, so if it was in December, I will have to, get that job started, then at least 3 months earlier should I start the process of procurement. And by the date of December, the contract should have been awarded. I am doing this conduct procurement in my execution. My project has started, and during its execution, I am conducting the procurements. My job is only to award it to someone who will then be responsible to do that job. Therefore, as far as I am concerned, I have done my execution. I have conducted the procurement. Now I have a contract signed between the two parties, and this is the document based on which I'll be controlling the procurements. I'll be dealing with the contractor based on that document, and I will go and sit in the control procurement process in monitoring and control, and I'll keep a watch, an eye on the contractor. Normally people think that the actual work of the project has yet, of that subcontracted work has yet not started, and that will be done by the contractor, but that would be actually the execution of that work. I agree with that. That will be execution of that work, but as far as my work is concerned, I have transferred the risk to him. So now I will not be much concerned about that thing. Okay, sorry. So what will happen is, once the contract has been signed, I will sit in monitoring and control, and I will manage all the change requests coming from the contractor. And if any, I will be the authority to approve it. And if in any case, those change requests are affecting my main project, then I will be moving change requests to the main project. Or if there is some change request within the project which is affecting the work of the contractor, then I will be amending the contract accordingly, renegotiating the contract with the contractor. So all this work will happen in control procurement. So actually, I will deal with the contractor in control procurements, and that is happening in monitoring and control. And once all jobs are done, in closing, I will have to ensure that all the procurement work has been duly completed, and there are many things I have to look at. All the deliverables contractor has delivered, all the work he was supposed to do, he has completed. He has submitted all the claims, all the payments have been made to him, and all the records have been properly managed. These 5 items I have to check, and if they are okay, then I will declare the procurements closed, and ultimately the project will be, closed after that. So what are the 5 things? Number one, all the work has been done. Number two, all the deliverables have been delivered. Number three, all the claims have been submitted. Number four, all the payments have been made. And number five, all the records have been maintained. So this is what will happen in procurements. So let us look at it one by one. I have told you the relationship between the buyer and seller. If you are giving out the contract to someone, you are the buyer, you are the customer, and he is the seller. And the terms and conditions will be governed by the contract. In planned procurement project management, you see, we have already done our estimations as far as the time and cost and resources are concerned. When we were doing our estimation, we did all the estimation, and in that, this work to be outsourced is also calculated. But those estimates are now required to be handed over to the contractor or to be written down into the requirements document for the contractor in the procurement documents. So I will have the project management plan as an input. The basic requirement document which was developed in our scope management will also be required. Any risks which have been identified in our risk management knowledge area will also be input to it. The resource estimates, the schedule, the cost estimates, stakeholder register, environmental factors and organism processes all are required to be input into the procurement management plan. Here we'll do the make or buy decision, make or buy analysis. As a result of that, in output number 5, you can see make or buy decision. So we'll do the analysis and make that decision. We'll do use the expert judgment. We will research the market for various type of vendors and rates and etc. And we'll conduct meetings, and we will, in this process, develop a procurement management plan, procurement statement of work, procurement documents, source selection criteria, make or buy decision, and if required, any change request and project documents will be updated. These are the types of contract which I have already been talking with you. Fixed price contract is the one in which you take one figure from the contractor, and if that is decided, then there are no more negotiations with him. He will have to do it no matter what. But there are variations to fixed price contract. There are further 3 types of fixed price contracts. Fixed price contracts, from fixed price is exactly what I have told you. Fixed price plus incentive are those contracts in which I am ready to give him certain incentive if he performs well. Fixed price with economic price adjustment is in a country like us in Pakistan, where the economic indicators are fluctuating all the time, the dollar value and all that is changing. So no contractor is going to work with you on a firm fixed price. Therefore, we can do a fixed price with economic price adjustment contract, that we will take into account the fluctuation in economy and pay him accordingly. So we'll fix a formula, and according to that we'll pay him, but the price has been fixed initially and the economic adjustment will be made on top of that. So this makes the things slightly easier for the contractor. Otherwise, on a firm fixed price contract, nobody is going to work with us. Cost reimbursable are those contracts in which the contractor is working, is responsible for the work, and as far as the materials and other things are concerned, we are supposed to pay him for that. Labor of the people, cost of materials and everything, we will be paying him. He will be presenting invoices to us and we'll be paying him all the costs. So this is called a cost reimbursable or cost plus type of a contract. These are also 3 types. Cost plus fixed fee contracts are that we tell the contractor that we will pay you all the costs, but your fee will be fixed. So in this case, he does not have much of interest how good the job is done. Therefore, he might not be, doing a very good job. But if we can give him an incentive, cost plus incentive. That ensures that he will get the job done in the best possible way because of the incentive he is getting. And there could be another way. We could, an incentive is pre-decided. The contractor and consultant, we buyer and seller both know how much is the incentive. If he does this much good job, he will get this much money. Cost plus award fee contract is slightly different. In this, like incentive, he does not know how much he will be rewarded, but he must be told that you do your job, and if the job is good, you will be amply rewarded. This will be only award should only be given to him when the job has been satisfactorily completed and the the buyer decides how much to reward. So in this, pretty much the game is in our hand, but naturally the buyer is going to be in benefit because of this award. This could be more than his expectations. Last but not the least is time and material contracts. These are for small time contracts, fixed duration, like you hire consultants or you hire labor or people on short time contracts. Like I want to develop a software. I have got 20 software developers, but I need 30. Only for 2 days. I need 10 extra people. So I will pick those people from the market, pay them their hourly rate, provide them all the resources to the job, and after 2 days they are no more my employees. Their contract finishes after 2 days, and they will only be paid on hourly or per dime basis. Consultants are like the same. We can hire the consultant services for a couple of weeks or days. He quotes his price. That is the price for his time, and we provide him all the necessary material to do that job, maybe computer and other things, and he does that job, and once he is delivered, he goes back. So these are for the short time contracts. We have already talked about the other things, statement of work and all that. In conduct procurements, we have the procurement management plan, procurement documents, source selection criteria. Seller proposals are also received there, because when we'll float the procurement documents into the market, the seller will be responding to that. Project documents will be input to it. Make or buy decisions, naturally we have made them already, they become as an input here. And procurement statement of work, which was basis for the procurement documents, and organizational process assets. Now our tools are, before the proposal is received, we will conduct the bidder conference to answer for any queries the bidders may have, and then they will submit their proposals. Those proposals will have to be evaluated, and we must have those evaluation techniques available with us. And we should have already conducted an independent estimate, which we already did. We already calculated the cost and time and resources. So that is the independent estimate. That is the point from our point of view, how much will it cost? Because when the bidders will be giving you the proposals, you would be able to know that if any proposal is unreasonably high or unreasonably low, for that matter. And you can devise into your evaluation criteria that anybody bidding exorbitantly high or too low may not be given the contract. So this you can decide in your evaluation criteria. You use your expert judgment, you advertise in the newspapers, you use the analytical techniques to judge these contractors or their proposals, and ultimately you negotiate with the sellers as to reach a contract. The output will be the seller will be selected, the contract or the agreement will be signed. As soon as the seller is selected, their availability will be available in the resource calendar. If there is any change request required at this stage, we will move that and we will amend the project management plan and project documents accordingly. In control procurements, We are now in monitoring and control. We have a contract and contractor is working accordingly. So I have the project management plan, procurement documents, and the agreement, which is the contract. Approved change requests, if any, will be received by us, and these are not only the change requests coming from the contractor, these are the approved change requests from the main project. So I will receive them. Why? Because maybe that could impact the contract or the contractor. Work performance report, as in the previous case, we also require this. We also need work performance data. We will, in tools, will have to use a contract change control system. How the contract can be renegotiated, how the changes to the contract can be brought. So I would have that mechanism which I'll use here. Procurement performance reviews will be conducted. Inspections and audits of the contractor work will be done. Performance reporting will be done. Payment system, claim system, and record system, as I defined earlier, to ensure that all the payments have been made, all the claims have been administered, all the records have been managed and maintained. And as a result, we will produce the work performance information, change request, and all these documents will be updated. Last but not the least is the close procurement process. And in close procurement, we are just supposed to do a procurement audit. We will have the project management plan and procurement documents. We'll audit the whole procurement for those 5 things. What were the 5 things? Number 1, all the work. We do have a paper proof that all the work has been done. We do have a paper proof that all the deliverables have been delivered. We do have the paper proof that all the claims have been settled, all the payments have been made, and all the records have been maintained. And if there is any closing negotiations required with the contractor settling down, we will do that and we will maintain the record, and ultimately the procurement will be declared closed and the lessons learned will be recorded in the organizational process assets. So this brings us to the end of this chapter. So because we are left with some time, I'll discuss one more thing. But if there are any questions, please go ahead.
Sir, this lump sum type of contract.
In a lump sum contract,
will come.
That's a fixed price.
It will come in which category? Fixed price.
That is a fixed price contract. Fixed price means lump sum.
Okay.
Any other questions? Ji Adil Saab, anything?
No, sir, nothing special right now.
Okay. Okay, I will like to talk about one more topic which is kind of optional, but naturally that is also important. That is the professional responsibility and ethics. Okay, PMI has developed its own PMI code of ethics and professional development, and in the exam you will have certain questions related to that. Just a moment. Okay, so you will have certain questions related to that, so I will just quickly go through the code of ethics. Now this code of ethics is prepared in there are four basic things in it. Number 1 is, what is the vision and purpose of this code of ethics? Then, who are the people who are governed by this code? Then what is the structure of this code? PMI has centered it on 4 different values, and for each of those values they have a specific conduct expected from the project managers. One is the aspirational conduct and other is the mandatory conduct. By aspirational, I do not mean that this is optional. This is desired. Aspirational is desired. but mandatory is must. So nothing is optional here. A project manager must do all these things, but if he doesn't do the mandatory items, it is just like a crime in project management. It is criminal not to follow the mandatory items. So the vision and purpose of this code is that PMI says that we are committed to do what is right and honorable. I hope it is self-explanatory. It describes expectations and mandatory behaviors. Just a minute. Right. So it says it describes the expected and mandatory behaviors, which I just was mentioning to you. What is the expectation from a project manager, aspirational values, and what are the mandatory behaviors? And it is there to instill confidence in project management, profession, and help become a better practitioner. So as a practitioner, and you know, you will try to groom yourself to this level of ethics as if people will have confidence in the profession, as well as you will be comfortable, you will be honorable that you abide by these rules. So by default, any project manager would be required to do that. This way, you will be able to advance our profession individually and collectively. There are individual values and there are collective values. If I follow them and all project managers follow them, then I know that all follow the same law, same rules, same ethics. So therefore, I can say with confidence that he is a project manager, he must not be lying. Serve as a catalyst for others to study, deliberate, and write about ethics and values. It is kind of an influence for others, motivation for others to also induct these kind of ethics in their own professions. Who are the people who are directly, under this code? Anybody who becomes a PMI member, he signs off on this code. Anybody, no matter he is a PMP or not. Anyone who becomes a PMI member is governed by this code. And even non-members are also allowed to participate in PMI activities. A non-member can be a certification holder. He could be a PMP. Any certification holder who is a non-member is also governed by this code. Or anyone who has not yet applied for the, who has yet not appeared in the exam and he has just applied for the certification exam, he is also governed by the standard. Or anyone who is not a member of PMI but he wants to participate voluntarily in any of the PMI activities like writing a standard or researching with PMI or something, you need not be a member of that. Even a non-member can participate. So in volunteer capacity, when you work with PMI, you are under this code. The four values are responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty. And you will see how important and interesting these four values are. Each value will be discussed in their aspirational as well as mandatory conduct. Aspirational means conduct we strive to uphold as a practitioner. We wish to do. People expect us to do. We must do. Not easily measured. Expectation as a professional, and it is not an option. As a professional, it is expected that you will do it. And this is aspirational, this is not mandated, this is not optional. Then are the mandatory conduct. They establish the firm requirements. They are kind of a law for a project manager. They limit or prohibit practitioners' behavior. You can or you cannot do certain things. Non-adherence causes disciplinary action by PMI's Ethic Review Committee. If you are a PMI member and you are not adhering to some of the mandatory values, then PMI can take action against you. They can cancel your membership, your certification, or whatever is in their power. Taking them one by one, what is responsibility? Responsibility is our duty to take ownership for the decisions we make or fail to make, the actions we take or fail to take, and the consequences that result. Now, this is a very comprehensive statement about the responsibility. We as project managers are responsible for all the decisions we are making or we are not making. You see, if I make a decision and it goes wrong, I must be able to take on the responsibility not only for the decision but its consequences as well. Similarly, if I do not take a decision which I should have taken and there is a damage due to that non-decision making, I should also take on that responsibility and the consequences of that. This is true about the decisions, make or fail to make, and actions I should take, I have taken and they have gone wrong, or I have not taken and I should have taken. In both the cases, I will be responsible. So I'll take full responsibility of all the decisions and all the actions and their consequences, which I make or fail to make. The aspirational standards these are just desired. These are the expectations from a project manager. If you don't abide by them, you may be, that's okay, but you should not. We make decisions and take actions based on the best interest of society, public safety, and environment. If you are working in a company which is doing something against the environment, is spoiling the environment, it is your aspirational value that you should not do that job or you should raise voice against that. If it is against public safety, if it is against society, so you should raise voice. But if you have to survive there, if it is not criminal act, you see, if there spoiling the environment is a criminal act in that country, that then becomes a mandatory standard. But if it is, not a criminal act, it's not a crime, then you may do it. But it is your decision. We accept only those assignments that are consistent with our background, experience, skills, and qualifications. I will not try to take on something which I am not capable of doing. Like you see, we have seen that people who are not capable of holding a position are holding very responsible positions just because they are referred by someone. So this is the responsibility of the project manager himself to only accept that responsibility which he thinks he has trained, he is experienced, and he has the qualifications to hold that. We fulfill the commitment that we undertake. We do what we say we will do. When we make errors or mistakes, we take ownership and make corrections promptly. When we discover errors or omissions caused by others, we communicate them to the appropriate body as soon as they are discovered. This is very interesting. This is very important. If you do a mistake by yourself, you commit an error or omission, you take the responsibility for that. If you see someone else doing that, it is not enough to just warn that person, but he is doing a crime against someone. So you have to inform that appropriate body. If somebody is wall chalking in the wall of someone's house, I need to inform the owner of the house. We accept accountability for any issues resulting from our errors or omissions and any resulting consequences. We protect proprietary or confidential information that has been entrusted to us. We work in a lot many environments in which we are custodians of many confidential information about that project. This is our aspirational duty. Even if there is no non-disclosure agreement signed, even then I am not supposed to talk it with others. I am not supposed to discuss it with anyone. This is my aspiration. But if there is a non-disclosure agreement, then it is mandatory that I cannot discuss it. We uphold this code and hold each other accountable to it. So you see, these are just the aspirational values. Let us move on and see the mandatory values. As far as the responsibility is concerned, we have two categories: regulations and legal requirements, and ethics complaints. Regulation and legal requirements, these are official. We inform ourselves and uphold the policies, rules, regulations, and laws that govern our work, profession, and volunteer activity. If I'm working in an organization, I am supposed to know all the rules and policies and procedures of that organization, and I have to uphold those. If I don't, they will fire me. If as a professional, as a PMI member, I am supposed to do something, uh, then and I don't do it, then probably PMI will hold me responsible for that. We report unethical or illegal conduct to appropriate management and, if necessary, to those affected by the conduct. So do let those people know against whom the crime has been committed, as if they can take necessary action or the appropriate management. Maybe you have to either inform the police for the wall checking or the owner of the house. Then there are ethics complaints. You may register an ethics complaint against me in PMI. How those will be handled? It says this is the responsibility. This is the responsibility of every person who is under this code. We bring violation of this code to the attention of the appropriate authority for resolution. I should inform PMI that a person who claims to be a PMP, he is not a PMP and he is lying, or he probably is doing something criminal. He is damaging the profession of project management. I have to bring it in to the PMI's notice. We only file ethics complaint. This is called ethics complaint. We only file ethics complaint when they are substantiated by facts. You see, anybody can file a ethics complaint against me, and that will be very bad if it is not true. So it must be proven by facts. I must be able to substantiate that thing by facts. Then we pursue disciplinary action against an individual who retaliates against a person raising ethics concerns. If I have complained against you and you retaliate, then again further disciplinary action has to be taken against you. Next is respect. Again, a beautiful definition. Respect is our duty to show a high regard for ourselves. First of all, ourselves. Learn to respect yourself, then others, and then the resources entrusted to us. So, I must respect even the equipment, even the machinery, even the tools I use. I should not treat them like trash. So, respect myself, respect all around me, people around me, and respect the resources entrusted to me. I should not waste. Resources entrusted to us may include people, money, reputation, safety of others, and natural or environmental resources. An environment of respect engenders trust, confidence, and performance excellence by fostering mutual cooperation. An environment where diverse perspectives and views are encouraged and valued. This probably we do not have this kind of sentiment available in our country. We do not respect the opinion of others. We do not, we just want to differ with others. So we must, promote an environment in which people can differ and still survive with each other. They can retain their perspectives, diverse perspectives and views, and still encouraged and valued. About respect, the aspirational standards are: we inform ourselves about the norms and customs of others and avoid engaging in behaviors they might consider disrespectful. So if I go to another country, I am supposed to know their norms and customs. I should not be doing anything which is not legal or not, liked by them. But legal is another aspect. Legal is then a mandatory thing, which is not liked by them. We listen to others' point of view, seeking to understand them. This is again talking about listening actively, active listening. We approach directly those persons with whom we have conflict or disagreement. This is a kind of respect. If I have a disagreement with someone, I should walk into his office and talk to him about it, rather than, getting some kind of a grudge out of it. We conduct ourselves in a professional manner even when it is not reciprocated. And what are the mandatory standards? We negotiate in good faith. We must always negotiate in good faith. We should not have any hidden agendas. And if I am working with hidden agendas, then this is criminal. We do not exercise the power of our expertise, our position, to influence the decisions or actions of others in order to benefit personally at their expense. That is a very important aspect. If I am sitting at a position where I can take certain decisions, just by dint of that power, I am using that power for my personal benefit. This is very common. Everybody in Pakistan is doing that. Anybody who gets an iota of power, he is trying to exploit others. This is criminal. We do not act in an abusive manner towards others. And I'll give you the definition of what is abuse. It is not only, abusing someone in a bad language. It is a lot many other things are included in it. Next value, the third value, is fairness. Fairness is our duty to make decisions and act impartially and objectively. You are sitting in a decision-making seat, so you must be impartial and objective, not subjective. Be firm on your decisions and be impartial. Our conduct must be free from competing self-interest, prejudice, and favoritism. No self-interest, no prejudice, and no favoritism. No space for these things. If you're not doing it, then you are not being fair. Aspirational standards: we demonstrate transparency in our decision-making process. Our decisions should speak for themselves. First of all, we should keep our decisions transparent. Everybody should know what has been decided. And the decision should speak for itself. We constantly re-examine our impartiality and objectivity, taking corrective actions as appropriate. You see, when I am sitting on the decision-making seat for quite long, then I start taking a lot many things for granted. So maybe over the period of time I have become impartial. I have not remained impartial. I have started making decisions on subjectivity. So I should keep on a watch out and should correct myself whenever I see that I am not being impartial or objective. We provide equal access to information to those who are authorized to have that information. Again, I have some information and there are 10 people who can benefit out of it, but I am only telling that information to my brother as if he can benefit and not others. I am hiding that information from others. So that is also not fair. We make opportunities equally available to qualified candidates. Again, the same thing. We are not only telling few people, it is very normal that you have already selected a person for a position and you are just on the very last day, you give an advertisement in the newspapers, and naturally the main purpose is that nobody should be applying. And even if someone is applying, then nobody should be better than the person I have already selected. And even then, somebody better than that person comes in, we will again exercise our powers and we will not select him. So we make opportunities equally available to qualified candidates. Mandatory standards, we proactively and fully disclose any real or potential conflict of interest to the appropriate stakeholder. You see, conflict of interest is if I am doing one thing with, say, I am doing a job and I have certain expertise for which I am hired for this job, but in my private time, I am consulting someone else. Is this job which I am consulting for someone else, is it conflicting with my main job? You are nobody to decide. You will have to go back to your employer and tell him that I want to consult someone and this is the person and this is the purpose, and I just wanted to check if there is any conflict of interest. If your employer says that he doesn't mind, there is no conflict of interest, then you feel free to go for it. But if your employer feels that there is a conflict of interest, you must not. What we do is, we know there is a conflict of interest, but we just become averse to that. And we say, okay, there must not be any conflict of interest, let me do that. And actually, by doing that, you are getting involved into criminal practices. You see, you are in an organization who is procuring something, and one of the bidders asks you, sir, please, we want your advice. And you are consulting with him and he is paying you. So basically, this is another way of bribing someone. When we realize that we have a real or potential conflict of interest, we immediately refrain from engaging in the decision-making process. If I am sitting on a decision-making seat for making procurements and I find out at any stage that my own relative is bidding for that, I should immediately cease making any decisions or otherwise attempting to influence outcomes unless and until we have made full disclosure to the affected stakeholders. I must tell my boss and all the bidders that this is my relative. Do you want me to continue working in this position? If my boss has no problem and the competitors have no problem, then I can move on. I can keep doing that process. Otherwise, I must give a mitigation plan that in my absence, this job can be done by someone else. So until and unless there is a consent by the stakeholders, I cannot continue doing that job. I should not. This is a mandatory standard for fairness. Favoritism and discrimination. Again, we do not hire or fire, reward or punish, award or deny contracts based on personal considerations, including but not limited to favoritism, nepotism, bribery. So these things are not allowed. We do not discriminate against each other based on gender, race, age, religion, disability, etc. We apply the rules of the organization, employer, project manager, institute, or whomsoever your organization is without favoritism or prejudice. People are doing that. People are doing that within the same organization. We mutilate the laws, mutilate the code which is in force in an organization in our favor. And we do favoritism in government organization, where in the law it says that you can be doing the favoritism or prejudice. But we do. And when we do, we are breaking the law. Last value is honesty. Again, honesty is our duty to understand the truth. Again, a beautiful definition. Honesty is not what you think that this is honesty. First of all, you need to understand what truth is and then act in a truthful manner. Your honesty might not be equal to my honesty. So first see what does honesty means. What is the real truth? Your truth might not be my truth. So honesty is our duty to understand the truth, then act in a truthful manner, both in our communication and in our conduct. What I say is what I do. First, I know what is the right thing, then I am following that right path, and it is not only in my communications, I'm not saying that I am truthful, but I actually prove by my conduct that I am truthful. Aspirational value, we honestly seek to understand the truth. We are truthful in our communication and in our conduct. We provide accurate information in a timely manner. This is important. If someone asks you something, you do not give him either you don't give him the information, or if at all you give him the information, you delay it so much that that information becomes of no use to that person. Maybe there is a deadline to meet and that person is asking me what is the deadline, and I am delaying him intentionally as if the deadline passes, and then I'll go and inform him, oh, I just forgot to tell you that was the deadline. So this is equivalent to lying. You are providing the accurate information but not in a timely manner. Firstly, the information provided must be accurate. Secondly, it must be timely. We make commitments and promises implied or explicit in good faith. You see, we act in good faith, not under a hidden agenda. If you make a commitment in good faith and that doesn't prove to happen, then it is not your fault. That was in good faith. But you believed when you were making the commitment or the promise, you believed that this is how it is going to happen. But what we do is we do not commit in good faith. We know this will not happen, but we still promise. That is false promises. We still promise and later on we say, well, it is not in my control. So if it is done under a hidden agenda, that is not good. We strive to create an environment in which others feel safe to tell the truth. Should not create an environment in which people are hesitant to speak truth. I hope you understand that. Some people have such an autocratic style that nobody can speak in front of them. What to talk of speaking the truth? The mandatory standards, this is interesting. We do not engage in or condone behavior that is designed to deceive others. Number one, we do not deceive others. Included but not limited to making misleading or false statements. Misleading and false statements. Stating half truths. Providing information out of context. Or withholding information that, if known, would render our statement as misleading or incomplete. We do it all the time. We are liars. We are, sometimes we are not lying, but we are not speaking truth. Or we are speaking half truth. Or we are giving a misleading kind of a statement. Or we are withholding information. Or we are, providing information out of context. When it is not required, we are providing it. When it is required, we are not providing it. So these are mandatory standards. This is truly being dishonest. We do not engage in dishonest behavior with the intention of personal gain or at the expense of another. I hope these things are self-explanatory. We all know it, but this is necessary to be told because we don't exercise them altogether. I told you I will talk about the abusive manner. What does abusive manner mean? The conduct that results in physical harm or creates intense feelings of fear, humiliation, manipulation, or exploitation in another person. That is the most complete definition I can get of abusive manner. You see, it is not only beating someone or abusing someone verbally. This is if you make someone afraid of something, you humiliate someone, you manipulate. We do humiliate and manipulate people in our offices all the time. Are we exploit people? This is all included in abusive manner. It is more than beating a person up. So we use the term abuse earlier. So this is the definition of abusive manner. And naturally, we did talk in detail about the conflict of interest. So just forget about the remaining definition. I was just interested in giving you the definition of abusive manner. So that brings me to the end of the whole course. If there is anything you want to talk about, or because today is last session, so we will not be meeting tomorrow. If at all we need to meet again, we will coordinate, and anyone who is interested can join the session. We'll fix that on some other day. So any questions for now? Anyone? Adil Saab, is it okay?
Sir, what about the certificates? You will send us by email? Means if let's say in future we need, then
Actually, you don't need certificates. We do not give out certificates for online courses. But in case PMI asks you for the certificate, there are two ways of doing it. Number one is I can send you a letter which says that you have attended this course, or I can send you the certificate, or I can send you both. But this will only be required when they ask you in audit. Otherwise, when you write in your application form that a manager's guide to project management by SysComp International 35 PDUs, that will suffice. They will not be asking for any more. If you were attending a physical course, I could have given you the certificate, but this will only be provided in, on required basis. And the next thing I can do is I can scan the certificate and everything and send you when required. So do let me know if PMI asks for it, and if they require it, I'll send you that.
okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Most welcome.
Sir, if you can share the details with what we have to put in the application, like the start date and end date of the training with 30 and 35 PDUs, and what is the name of the institute. If you can text it or send to all of us by email, we will put that in our application.
Okay. That is very simple. They ask you the name of the course. I'm writing it down here. A manager's guide to project management in the exam prep course. My company name is SysComp International. PDUs is equal to 35. Or you can say the contact us. This is all the information you need. But if at all there is anything else needed, you can email me and I can provide you that. You want my address? Phone number? I think I provided all the information.
Sir, is there any start date or end date of the training? Start like training required from this period to that
Started
period?
on.
Is it required?
Just hold on a minute. We started on what date? That was first
27th of last month.
27. So it is 27 November 2017 to today is 17 November 2017. This is it.
Sir, 27 to 17, that makes, okay, 20 days.
That makes 20 days and 40 hours.
Yeah, for 35 PD hours, make 40 hours. Okay,
Yeah,
2 hours a session.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Also, sir, do you have any group of your existing students where, you know, if we have any problem in any question or any kind of a blog, or if we can make a group and ask queries in a group, or if you follow such kind of group?
I have got a group, and I think you are already a member of that. If you are not unsubscribed,
But sir, that is on LinkedIn, right?
yeah, that is on WhatsApp.
I don't think so, sir.
Okay, let me see. Let me see.
I read it on WhatsApp, but I believe that is direct interaction. I don't
That
have
is
any.
PMP aspirants. You can make a new group if
No. PMP aspirants. No,
PMP.
sir.
You have that?
No, sir. I don't have that group.
Just a minute. Let me search it out for you. Striving for PMP. The name is Striving for PMP. And let me
So
see.
that is where. So that is in Facebook or WhatsApp?
Just a minute. I'll just search you out. Probably I did not have your phone number. That's why you are not on my WhatsApp.
Sir, we have interacted on WhatsApp. It's what is that? It's
Let me
personal
add you.
interaction.
Let me add you. Let's see if you are in my list. You are not in my list. Can you write down your number? Okay, I will just add
Yeah,
you.
I just wrote.
I'll just add you, and first I will have to add you in my directory. Everybody else is a member of that. Vasif, Atif, everybody, please let me know. Vasif 97428.
क्यों बनाए? एक मिनट
Okay.